oh why do poor white people vote against themselves time and time again? They vote for Trump and the other MAGA politicians only to have every promise broken, prices go up, social supports evaporate. Here's why. First, remember what I talked about recently, the psychological wage of whiteness. That term was coined by W.E. Du Bois to describe poor white folks being paid with social status rather than decent living conditions. They're convinced by the elites that they're better than black folks, better than immigrants, Latinos, LGBTQ folks. They're convinced that being white puts them in the same league as the elites. Of course, the elites know otherwise, but the poor whites buy it because they're grasping at straws. Second, they are convinced that the people they're supposedly better than are the big threat in their lives. Not the rich, not the corporations or the politicians, but immigrants, black folks, welfare queens, LGBTQ, criminals, you know, the usual scapegoats. Third, the elites promise protection to poor white folks. A politician comes along and says, I'll keep those people in their place, or I'll kick them out, or I'll lock them up. Or, more politely, I'll defend your values. They don't say, I'll make your life better. Well, they say it, they just don't mean it. They'll say, I'll make sure they don't get ahead of you. Fourth, they vote for the punishment, not the policy. When a law gets passed that slashes public housing or school funding or food aid, they think, good, that'll stop those lazy freeloaders. And they do some mental gymnastics that make them believe it's worth losing those things for their own families in order to see those problematic black people and immigrants and so forth being punished. It gets to a point where just seeing those guys being punished is reward enough, which is pretty sick, but that's how behavior works. Their housing, schools, and groceries are on the chopping block too, but they blame that on Biden. Always a scapegoat. They get hit by the same policies they were told would punish the others, and they blame the wrong people. The system fails them, but they've been trained to blame the scapegoats, not the cause, which is the rich people, the people they voted for. So they think the problem is still those people, not the fact that they were personally manipulated by the people they voted for. They're basically saying, I'll take the hit as long as you don't help them, or worse, as long as you hurt them. That is the psychological wage Du Bois was talking about, the trade-off between material security for racial status. And that's a crying shame, folks.
When the American empire finally collapses, historians won't be stunned by the greed of the elite. They will be stunned by the loyalty of the poor. That stopped me in my tracks. The working class didn't just vote against their own interests, they worshipped the billionaires robbing them. They slashed their own benefits, gutted their own healthcare, and cheered while the rich wrote off private jets as tax deductions. Not because it helped them, but because they were told it would hurt someone else. And that right there is how you rig a democracy without ever breaking a single law. Some laws were broken, but this tweet makes such an important point. The greed of the elite is expected. What is not expected is the loyalty of the poor, of the working class, to those who are taking from them. That is what...
Why do conservatives vote against their own best interests and for these rich assholes who don't give a about us? Hi, my name is Keegan and I talk about the psychology of politics. Get real. Your interests, your standard of living, it's not just about how well you're doing on money. Some interests are emotional. Conservative voters will take a politician that makes the rich richer and screws them over on housing, healthcare, their paycheck, if it means that politician postures as a strongman who will protect them from crime, immigrants, the gay agenda. Doesn't matter that violent crime goes up under Republicans and down under Democrats. It's all about the feeling of safety. But some conservative voters go even further. At the top of their list of interests is hurting the people that make them feel afraid, Insecure, disgust. Conservative voter feels rejected by women, or is so afraid of women's rejection that they don't even try. So they elect politicians to take away women's freedom. Immigrants and black people make them feel afraid. Elect politicians to hurt them. Gay and trans people trigger this feeling of disgust. Elect Republicans because they'll stop people from being that way. The sad reality is that your average right-winger would rather be miserable and poorer, so long as the powerful are making the people that they don't like miserable and poorer as well. By the way, the centrist Dems who voted for Biden over Bernie also voted for a rich asshole who doesn't give a about any of us because those voters were afraid. When you're dominated by fear, you don't vote rationally in your own best interests.
Hello brothers and sisters, welcome back to the channel. I'm hoping that you're doing great from wherever you watch me from. I'm your host and presenter Agent Stories. That's something that I want to talk about. We've seen some people come out and confess that they don't regret the decisions that they made. And as much as everything is affecting everyone economically, the economic turmoil that is going on in the United States is something which was induced by white people themselves. When you get to look at this term coined by Du Bois, which was called psychological wages of whiteness. Psychological wages of whiteness, if I understand, according to the way it was coined by Du Bois, it meant that these are non-monetary values, like social status that white people get in exchange of their anti-blackness, in exchange of voting against their right, in exchange of voting against their will. Right. And so it is much of indoctrination rather than seeing value out of any decision that they made. Because if you could ask these people, why did you vote for Mr. Donald Trump? They'll say that, oh, he's white and he is going to represent me as a white person. And when you look at the values that they uphold, because it's more of social values, it is more of race to them and more of anti-black rhetoric that they usually have in regards to their arguments, right? Just because the other person who was against Mr. Donald Trump was a white person, was a black person, by default, Mr. Donald Trump is the person that they chose. And so you ask yourself, why do these people keep on voting for a person that doesn't care about their welfare? Why do they keep voting about for a person that only thinks about his fellow oligarchs? Right? This is a question. This is a topic that we want to delve into today. And brothers and sisters, I'm your host and presenter Agent Stories. I really find this topic so important that we get to have a discussion in regards to it, because for the longest time, and it will still continue, Mr. Donald Trump doesn't give an F about poor white people. It doesn't. And even majority of black people, it doesn't give. But you realize that these people, they are usually being lied to. They are being usually sold a lie. And then they'll go and hate on black people because they were sold a lie. And so if you understand the psychological wages of whiteness, according to, this is a term which was coined by Du Bois, and later on he came to explore this, and he made us understood how all these things unraveled. And our brothers and sisters, I feel like this is important discussion, because we are seeing this happening in real time in the United States, and the devastating effects of racism and the choices that white people decided to vote for Mr. Donald Trump is still affecting everyone today. Look at the economic turmoil. Look at all the tariffs. Look at the stances that these people are having towards the Gaza genocide and everything. All these things are affecting everybody. And so it's imperative if you and I have a discussion in regards to this, brothers and sisters. So let's watch the video. I'll be back and then I'll be sharing my thoughts in regards to this. And if you're watching me for the first time, I'm just asking you to please subscribe to the channel, join the membership, and really get to see what I can offer you. For those who are always watching me for the coming back and watching me, man, I'm really grateful for the support that you're giving me. And if you wish to buy me a coffee, some of you guys are supporting me, and I'm really grateful, right? And so brothers and sisters, if you support me through my Cash App, super thanks, man. I'll be really grateful for the support. But until then, let's watch the video. I'll be back and then I'll be sharing my thoughts in regards to this.
Well, I did it again, damn it. Went down that damn rabbit hole, and it was fun. Because I strolled down this hole of farmers that are mad because they're about to lose their farm. Because that federal grant money hasn't shown up yet. And they don't know what to do. And all of them crying. But damn it, in every freaking video, all of them, and I mean all of them, except for maybe one or two, all of them voted for Trump. So why are you complaining is my question. You voted for this. You asked for this stupidity. You complaining that you're about to lose your farm because you voted for a man who told you what he was going to do. But that's your freaking fault. Because you voted for your whiteness instead of voting your heart. Because you didn't want to see that black lady in office. So you voted for that white man. And you knew he was a crook. You knew he was a thief. You knew he was going to do all the dumb shit because you've seen it before. But you mad because you're about to lose your farm. Some of them crying. This land been in my family forever. Yeah. Because it was given to you a long, long time ago. And I ain't crying. And I ain't mad. And I don't care. Because that's what you get for voting for your whiteness. You voted for your whiteness instead of voting for the proper person that you knew was good for that job. But you wanted that man in office that bad. You didn't want her in office. You can't say you voted for the lesser of two evils. You voted his color, not his character. And before we get off of this, y'all know what to do. Hit the heart, share the video, do what we do. This TikTok, damn it. You knew better, but you did it. See, this land that y'all got for free, that's been passed down through the generations, that we didn't get our 40 acres of the mule. So why are we going to be mad because you about to lose yours? This is by design. All of those corporations are buying up farmland across the freaking country. This is on purpose. But you've yet to realize that. Kamala had you saved. The money was appropriated. It was there. But you had to vote for Trump. You knew what he was. You knew what kind of guy he is. But you voted your color. And you thought you was going to get that privilege. But now you understand. If you ain't worth 7, 8 figures, he don't give a shit about you. Or your cousin, or your sister, your auntie. Nobody. Now you look like me to him. Because you ain't got it like that. So, I'm sorry you about to lose your land. But I really don't give a damn. Because you knew better. All of you. But you wanted to vote for your privilege and your color instead of who was deserving and who was better. So blame yourself. Blame your neighbor. Blame the people down the street. It ain't our fault. It's on you.
The jokes really do write themselves because 3 days ago, did I not just say this in my video? Many Americans who voted for the talking orange believe that rules for thee and not for me is how things are going to play out. And it's just not. There are many Americans who are waking up to find out that their lives are going to be impacted by this. Many of them are effing around and finding out the hard way. And now look at the Republicans effing around and finding out.
I'm Hispanic and I vote for Mr. Trump. We vote for Mr. Trump. Yeah!
straight. They used us. They actually, during the campaign, and I don't want to make this political, but during the campaign, the elected officials from the Republican Party, they actually told us that he was not going to touch the documented people.
So I admit, I regret my vote for Donald Trump. I regret it because I needed these changes sooner. I needed the prices to go down sooner so that I didn't drain out my bank accounts and go into crippling credit card debt.
All right, you shady motherfucker, listen up and listen good. I voted for you because of your no tax on overtime bill, amongst other things. But here's the deal. I just read your great big beautiful bill, and it's bullshit.
As easy as it would be for me to say that I wasn't thinking when I voted or that I don't watch the news, I had to ask myself the same question that hundreds of you are asking me, is why did I vote the way I did? I've spent the last few days reflecting, and I feel like I came through some sort of revelation.
You know why we voted for Donald Trump? Because the middle class man finally thought he was going to get ahead in life. You said no taxes on overtime. Big, bold, beautiful letters. We thought, hell yeah, why would we not vote for that? Then you turn around and pass the bill and it's a crock of shit. It's a tax credit for the people that make a certain amount of money. Of course, when you put it in big, bold, beautiful letters, it looks great. We're going to vote for you. And you knew what you were doing. You were baiting people in saying, no taxes on overtime. You didn't give no fucking details. Your details that we read.
All I can say, I was a dumbass, voted for Trump only because of my beliefs. People around me encouraged it. I can think for myself, yes. But I felt at the time that was the better choice. Now I'm looking at it with everything going on. It was the worst decision I ever made. I wanted not to vote.
I was a MAGA junkie.
A MAGA junkie who thought her government job would be safe with Donald Trump in office. She was wrong.
I cried. It's scary, you know, it's a really scary thing, and I was embarrassed. He's a good boy.
Piggott was abruptly fired last month from the Treasury Department's Bureau of Fiscal Service, based here in Parkersburg, West Virginia. The reason given for the firings of 125 probationary employees at the Bureau? Poor performance.
If you could say anything to President Trump now, what would you say?
I expected better from you. I really did. I expected that you would do what was right and cut waste and fraud and all of those things that you promised us before we elected you in office, but you're not doing that. You're creating a disaster, and I don't know what America's going to look like if this continues.
I know you told me you voted for President Trump. What were you hoping that he would do?
I was hoping he would did something that made sense regarding the economy, made some kind of progress in bettering, you know, the benefits of being a veteran. But I mean, it just seemed like he actually cared about doing what was best for the country. But now it just feels like all about me, Donald Trump, not, you know, the guy out there working in the trenches trying to make ends meet, trying to pay a mortgage, trying to pay the bills. You know, it goes against everything I expected when, you know, I voted for him.
I just need someone to explain something to me. I live in Alabama, and my utility bill usually averages between $200 and $250 a month. Can someone please explain to me how my utility bill went from $250 a month to $696 this month? Could someone just please explain that to me? I know it was cold last month, but $696? Explain.
Cumplíamos todos los requisitos, actividad de tratos. Se terminó el caso, se cerró hace meses. Lo detuvieron en el aeropuerto de Ley, lo mandaron a un county jail en North Carolina por 3 días y luego lo movieron aquí a donde estamos ahora.
Le dijo que iba a ir por todos los delincuentes que entraron ilegal.
Y ahí lo dijo muy claro.
Lo dijo bien claro.
Pero pasamos de tener una puerta abierta completamente a cerrarla con 10 cerrojos.
Es un engaño masivo lo que hizo. Es un mentiroso que está mucha gente enojada. Y no son inmigrantes. Gente que vive aquí desde generaciones y generaciones. Estar en este país.
You all asked, and here it goes. Here's my Trump hat. It's right here. It hasn't gone anywhere, and it doesn't change anything. Regardless, I am still going to enjoy my summer.
I'm just trying to trust the universe. Trust God. Trust myself.
Well, I'm trying not to laugh. This is her now.
It's been happening frequently at the 333 Miami Avenue Federal Court building. Janet Correa's husband was detained this week. According to her immigration lawyer, he has already been placed on expedite removal.
I wasn't just a Trump supporter. I was a true believer. I was one of his closest advisors. I spent Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's all at Mar-a-Lago. I saw him when the cameras were off. Behind closed doors, Trump mocks his supporters. He calls them basement dwellers. On a hospital visit one time when people were dying in the ICU, he was mad that the cameras were not watching him.
How come everybody I know of that went to college is a Biden supporter? Yeah. And I don't understand how everybody is a Biden supporter if you just went to college. So what are they teaching in this college? Are they teaching anything?
Stuff like inclusivity and respecting other people, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, woke.
Yeah, wokeness, yeah.
We're all severely underestimating the amount at which white women have the capacity to participate in the patriarchy, misogyny, racism, bigotry, xenophobia, completely uninfluenced by their husbands and their fathers. There may be some white women that decided to vote for Donald Trump just because their husbands did, or they were intimidated, or they felt like their life was threatened if they didn't do so. But I'm telling y'all, the majority of women that voted for Donald Trump did it because they wanted to, and nobody was going to tell them otherwise. I grew up around these women, okay? These women have just as much resentment towards minorities and immigrants as their husbands do. This is the same kind of women that are complaining about how many minorities are attending the public school that their child is attending. These are the same type of women that think that the reason they ended their own pregnancy was justified, and every other woman that wants to end her pregnancy is just doing it because she's selfish and slutty. 54% of white women voted for Donald Trump. Not every single one of them did that because their husband convinced them to do it. The vast majority of them did that because they wanted to.
Yes, there are still social programs that white people won't support because they don't want black and brown people to have access to them, like free higher education, which we had through the 1960s, and right after civil rights, that all went away. Look how much support varies between races and also between age groups, and think about who would have benefited the most during the 1960s when free college education before black and brown people were allowed to get it, and now look at who wants to close the door behind them to make sure nobody else can get it. So black and brown people might receive more per capita in benefits dollars today, but they've also been excluded from benefits that your parents and grandparents got that nobody else had access to. And my point is that all middle-class Americans could get more back from their tax dollars if we stop focusing on what black and brown people are getting that you don't think they deserve, and instead start focusing on what we're giving to billionaires for space contracts and defense contracts and private prisons.
When President Musk and Vice President Donald Trump get into office, what are you going to do, Republican voters, when they start cutting the things that you depend on? Because there are many of you Republican voters out there that rely on the government to live. Many of you voters rely on things like food stamps and WIC benefits that help feed your families. Many of you guys depend on help with your medication costs every month. Well, they're planning on fucking cutting everything. VA benefits slash, rental assistance programs cut. Many of these benefits are helping seniors, especially Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, are all on the fucking chopping block. You see, poverty comes, man, on both fucking sides. Both sides of the aisle, left and right. You all thought you were owning the libs. You were played, and you played yourselves. You see, the game isn't about right versus left. It's really about rich versus poor. Billionaires that don't care about morality or ending class warfare. They care about profits and tax breaks. Anything to enrich themselves. You thought you were really sticking it to the Dems. But really you stuck it to yourself, to your kids, to your older parents and grandparents. They say elections have consequences, and now we will all collectively have to beg at the feet of our new billionaire rulers for scraps. Good job. Maybe, just maybe, with the impending financial suffering that is coming to us all, you will realize you only owned yourselves. You will wake up to the fact that it's rich versus poor. And you voted for the club that you aren't even a part of. Well, I guess we'll see you in the awakening.
It's amazing how many people will vote against their own interests. It's almost like when someone keeps crawling back to an abusive relationship, and you have to start wondering, maybe they like the abuse for some reason. Maybe the women who are going to vote for Trump want to live in a patriarchy. Maybe they've been terribly burdened with all of these pesky rights the feminists have won for them over the years. Major inconveniences like being able to own a credit card or not be legally raped by their husbands. Maybe all of the black men who are going to vote for Trump feel like they missed out on the good old days of segregation. Maybe they'd like to go back to those days and see what they were like back when America was great. Latino Trump voters, I imagine, are just homesick. Maybe they would like to go back to their country of origin, figure the MAGA plan for mass deportation might save them a little bit on travel expenses.
I see a lot of people talking about the affirmative action ruling, and there's a lot of people pointing out that white women were actually some of the biggest beneficiaries of affirmative action. And so people are kind of naturally asking, like, well, like, why did conservative white women vote for things that would take away, people who would take away things that are benefiting them? And I think that there's some things to be discussed here that we don't really talk about very often. One of those things is that regardless of party, white women will, the vast majority of the time, vote whiteness over gender. because we can still receive the runoff of the benefits that white men get or give themselves when they're in power. So white families will still benefit, and we might not make the same amount of money that white men make, and we might have our right to choose birth when we want to ripped away, but we will still always be the beneficiaries of white men in power. And so when we look at the way white men have structured our society to treat people who aren't white, we think, well, I don't want that. Like, this isn't great, but it's not that. And so because we don't really talk about that very often, because that requires people to like dig underneath and really like acknowledge privilege to talk about how racist they are. And this applies to liberal women as well. We will continuously see women, even liberal women, voting against their own interests because their primary identifier is white, and the thing that gives them the most privilege in this country is their relationship to white men. And the interesting part about that, even beyond this, is that white men kind of, as a whole, only really care for white women to the extent of what we can do for them. So the whole dynamic is like pretty fucked up, but yeah, just something that I don't think we really talk about very often.
So now I'm seeing all these videos of Mexican Americans crying about how they regret voting for Trump. And honestly, I can't feel bad for you, because when we told you this would happen, you didn't listen. When it was just theoretical, it was easy to ignore. But now that your undocumented family is at risk, now that your kids are being targeted, or the kids in your circles, now that they're coming for you, now it's a problem. Listen, I get it. I have family who voted for him too, and I won't lie, it makes it very hard to process. It sometimes even makes it hard to talk to them, because how am I supposed to be okay with that? I have undocumented family. I have a trans sibling. Trump's policies directly hurt people I love. So when I see our own people supporting him, it feels like a slap in the face. And I keep asking myself, why? How did this happen? This man called Mexicans rapists. He bragged about deporting families. He made racial profiling and hate cool again. And still, some of you voted for him. And now, reality is hitting. Oklahoma just passed a law requiring parents to prove citizenship to enroll their kids in school. Texas is next. Who do you think they're coming for? Not white, undocumented Europeans, Latinos. And now some of you are shocked? What did you think was going to happen? That they'd make an exception for you? That you're somehow a good immigrant? That Trump actually cared about Latinos? Be serious. I know some of you are going to defend your stance with like, well, my family voted for him because they don't like socialism. They care about small businesses. They're conservative. They're religious. Okay. But at what cost? At the cost of our people being deported? At the cost of our kids being denied education? At the cost of our community being unsafe? And so now you're feeling the consequences and you want us to feel sorry for you. No. I'm saving my sympathy for the people who didn't vote against their own families. It's exhausting. We tried to tell you, but if you voted for Trump and regret it, sit with that, reflect on it, because the rest of us, we saw this coming. Please don't share any hate, not even towards Latinos who voted for Trump. This is just my personal view and my frustration about this entire situation.
Pertaining to Southern voting tendencies, why do people continue to vote against their best interests, the poor getting poorer? Now, I do have some theories, which are pretty much opinions just based on my personal experience. So, number one, in my opinion, I do feel like religion plays a massive part in this. They call the South the Bible Belt for a reason. I mean, churches are like Walgreens down here, y'all. There's one on every corner. But I think it's really complex. A lot of our parents and grandparents and their parents were all brought up on hellfire and brimstone when it came to church. And I know this may sound silly to some of y'all, but a lot of people down here are really scared of going to hell. And that preoccupation with the afterlife can really cloud someone's judgment in the present and their current circumstances. Because the promise of a good eternal life makes all their problems in the moment seem a lot smaller. That's a very simplified explanation, and as much as I respect everyone's religion that they choose to participate in, the Southern Christian moral compass is very aligned with a certain political party's social stance on issues. I don't think that's a coincidence, but I'm not here to judge. And although I'm not particularly religious, I do think it's really important to mention the sense of community and the amount of resources a lot of these religious organizations provide to communities down here, and all the families and lives that they really do touch, because there's literally no one else here to help. Like I mentioned, it's really complex and I could talk a lot more on it, but overall I do think the social issues that align with their religion outweigh the big picture economic aspect of it all. Number two, I hate that I have to say this, it's racism. In my experience, a lot of religious white people, black people, Hispanic people down here tend to be socially conservative, which is connected to all of their religious beliefs. But if you consider the role that racial resentment played in the strategic success of the Southern strategy that took place during the Civil Rights era and successfully flipped the Democratic South to a solid Republican South, you'd be naive to think that that doesn't still exist a little bit down here. Maybe a lot of it, I don't know. Because the reality is, there are a lot of poor white people, there are a lot of poor black people and Hispanic people down here. But what separates them is going to be the historical issues and current issues that love to blame specific populations for the current problems that white people are facing. Now, they'll never come outright and say that, but look back and think about the war on drugs. Look now and think about the immigration issues that everyone talks about. These very racially coded issues do exactly what they were intended to do: attract racists. And there's literally no other way to say it. I mean, it's the perfect formula for a whole group of people who desperately want a sense of identity. I know that sounded harsh, but it's heavy. I have many experiences that prove it true. Now, I'm not a researcher or a sociologist by trade, so please just consider all of this my personal opinion that I gathered through my own experiences and the educational materials that I've consumed to better understand the world around me.
Hello brothers and sisters, welcome back to the channel. I'm hoping that you're doing okay. I'm hoping that you're doing good from wherever you're watching me from. Important things to discuss is first, the psychological wages of whiteness and how white people are lied to, and they're still being lied to even today. It is so sad when I try to look at the farmers that voted against their own will. It is so sad when I try to look at all these constructors that voted against their own will. It is so sad to look at all these people that casted their faith, that casted the future of the United States in the hands of Mr. Donald Trump. Supposedly, people believe that he will deliver, but he failed to deliver. And one thing about all this is, like, I don't like to make inference to something so superficial. I would like to go back to history and try to look where did this all started, and psychologically, how are they capable of calming and manipulating all this group of people, and then how are they making it successful for them to be manipulated. First, I'm going to be taking you back to history, and I'll take you back to the Bacon's Rebellion. Nathaniel Bacon, when we try to look at back in the 16th, right, because the Bacon Rebellion happened back in the 16th. So when we try to look at back in the 16th, in the way we had all these elites, and Nathaniel Bacon was one of the people that led, I'll call it a revolution, or that led a protest against all these exploitation that the rich or that the elites used, right? And since they were being exploited, he surged a protest. And so this was something that was not accepted. That's why we had the Bacon Rebellion, which was named after Nathaniel Bacon, right? And so when we try to look at how all these things unraveled, the elites saw really that when poor white people and poor black people came together, there is something great that will come out of them. Because you cannot fight against the majority of people. It's a revolution. That's why I called it. It was a revolution that was formed then, right? But the elites found a way. They saw white people and they saw a niche. They saw white people and they saw a weakness. Why do you think they didn't go to white people? Black people? Give me answers in the comment section. I want to know. So these elites sat down and so We want to control these people. But we are afraid of one thing, their unity. If they unify, there's something that will come out of them that will affect us. And so they went to white people and lied to them. And how did they lie to them? They told them, you know, you white people, we have been seeing you, and you are our brothers. You see your skin color. Your skin color is so much valuable than that of a black person. And as a result, there are some privileges that we are going to give you on behalf of black people. But you only need to pay one price. Please side with us, right? Because we are protecting whiteness. We don't want you to socialize. We don't want you to intermingle. We don't want you to marry with black people. We are protecting what? We are protecting your whiteness. And so, this is how whiteness was created. There are professors like Batalora, when she discussed about the birth of whiteness. White people did not exist until 1690. I can't quite remember but it was around the 16th centuries when you also try to look at that. And you get to realize this is when whiteness was created. And so whiteness came to be, right? So going back and back and back and back and back and back. Let me finish the story. So the elites went to white people and they asked them, how? We are going to change your life and we are going to give you privileges against black people. We just want one thing. We want you to uphold our values, and our values is whiteness. We want you to maintain the status quo. We want you to start policing the black people. We are giving you the responsibilities of now policing the black people. You can whip them. You can let them work for you. You are now bosses. You ain't gonna be working right now. And that's how they did, right? Without forgetting that everything that was being given to them was superficial, when in actual sense, they could have benefited big time if they could have unified with black people. And so, the weaknesses of white people, we talk about the values that they're being lied to about being white and whiteness, the values that they're being lied to that makes them not economically think about their future, because you get to understand that the backbone of every country is the economic activity, is the economic interaction and how they do all these things. Get to understand that. And so, if they did fail to see that, it means that the elites found a loop of making them suffer. Later on, so many years, slavery happened, all those things happened, and they came to realize that, we are not great. But what can they do? Because their values are so much important than what is happening in the country that wasn't happening today. And brothers and sisters, as I'm explaining to you until right now, you ask yourself this question: why do poor white people keep voting against their own will? There you have the answer. It started a long time ago. It started in the 16th century. It started back then, right? So it's important, it's imperative to understand that these are people who are brainwashed, who are whitewashed, and believe that their values are much more important than the economic situation. Somebody will die because at the end of the day, Trump is white and white is good. And that's how it's supposed to be. That's how they believe, right? But anyway, I really don't know what you think or what you feel about this. But really, let me know what you feel about this, because the psychological wages of whiteness, we are seeing the the symptoms of them until today, and we are seeing it affecting everybody. We are just seeing this unraveling in real time, brothers and sisters. And so please let me know what you feel about this. And as you know, I'm your host and presenter, Agent Stories. Again, I'll just remind you, if you're watching me for the first time, I'll ask you to please subscribe to the channel, join the membership, and really get to see what I can offer you. And man, I'll be really grateful for all the support that you are trying to give me, right? Because at the end of the day, we all need to learn. And there you go. So brothers and sisters, but until then, peace, love, and harmony. Salute.